People mistake aggressive action for effective action. And in the end, what you want is to accomplish your desired result. If that doesn't happen, then you either didn't thoroughly think out your plan or you did not execute it correctly. Usually execution comes from not thoroughly thinking out. Most people are reactionary. They do not plan what the chain of events will be when partaking in an action. You can see this time and time again throughout history, probably throughout your own life. I know that I have done many things and ended up in many places that I necessarily didn't anticipate due to not thoroughly thinking through the actions at that time. Normally, a little voice saying, yeah, probably don't want to do that. You tell him to fuck off, and then, probably shouldn't have sworn though. What are you gonna do? The population is very unhappy. This has been demonstrated over the course of the last year, time and time again, through different demonstrations, civil unrest, and culminating at the beginning of this year, showing that there is a lot of unrest on both sides of the fence. Now, I believe most people are closer to the middle of the fence than either side wants to admit. And we do have more in common with each other than the people that want us to fight and want us divided. And the people who act out in anger, in aggression, and expect for the result to accomplish anything, they're almost fighting a war of attrition that they can't win. If a war is lost, Clausewitz said, it is because the policy that drove it was flawed. And so just lashing out in anger at anything that gets you emotionally riled won't accomplish anything. What happens if you overthrow the status quo and you're able to usher in a new order, one by the people, for the people? What happens in the immediate now? The Chinese Revolution, the Russian Revolution, led to millions of people starving to death, led to horrible sins, cannibals, death, children murdering their teachers, their families. A lot of people starved, froze. These are facts. And those were people who were undoubtedly more resourceful than our current population, at least here in the United States. So, the system that we despise, the system that oppresses us, the system that is continually reminding us that we are not truly as free as they espouse us to be, props up every single one of us. I mean, not every one of us. There are some people out there living independent, doing their thing. That's not the majority, however. Most people depend on this system, even including a lot of the people who want to overthrow it. So it can't be a war of attrition. That is a mutually assured destruction. We cannot be like Robespierre and guillotining those who have committed grievous sins against humanity. At least not in the Robespierre sense, the public square format. And at the end of the day, he ended up on the guillotine, along with a lot of the people who set up the order. And that was in the French Revolution. We can talk about the countless revolutions that did not go as intended. No, I believe that our revolution does not need to be one of arms, but one of ideals. And we need to radically shift the direction that our nation is heading and where our nation has been. We need to rectify the past sins because we have a lot of skeletons in our closet as a nation. And a lot of people want to talk about the problems that we have. But we need to start talking about the solutions and the replacements for that and other viable options in order to improve, in order to strengthen, in order to move forward. The powers that be seem to think that our population is unsustainable. I do not believe this to be the case. I believe that our resources are very plentiful and our intellect is that we can solve problems. We put our mind to it. We can generate enough energy to sustain this planet and everybody on it. They can live comfortably in a modern lifestyle. And that our population will not exceed a certain amount. By some studies, it's about 9 billion, and then the population will start to dip back down as everything becomes modernized. If you look at Western civilization, the rate of child reproduction, just having kids in general, has gone down. We are no longer the agricultural society that demands 7, 8 children in order to work the fields. That is what led to massive population growth in the first place. And if you look at the places that have the highest population growth, it is still areas where they're very much dependent on their families. Not that you shouldn't be, at least to a certain extent. I believe it takes a tribe to raise a child, and that you should be in close-knit. It's crazy to hear people who lived in a neighborhood for 25 years and they don't know all of their neighbors. Unfortunately, that's the time that we live in. They have more in common with their neighbors than they probably would be willing to admit or ever thought that they could be. We should not look at each other as enemies, but as brothers and sisters. If you drink a Pepsi, you sacrifice a Coke. Both of which are terrible decisions and you should choose something else. But you always sacrifice the next best thing. We can talk about the evils. I'm trying to keep the glare off of my glasses, but it's a little bit difficult. The laptop's right in front of me. I got a camera, but I gotta get a SIM card. Right now it's bad vision, but the speaker quality's better on the laptop than on my phone. But bear with me. We'll be up in the ante here a little bit. Okay. So, if you just say, let's eliminate all the bad, that doesn't make things good. Okay? I don't know why people are under this assumption that eliminating bad creates good. No, the elevation of good causes the elimination of bad because you have a better choice. Okay? That's how you eliminate the bad. If you take a junkie and you just take drugs away from him, he's still a junkie. You eliminated the bad. Where does he go from there? You tell me. There's still a junkie in their heart. But you give that person the ability to create, to remake themselves, to change and grow, adapt, evolve. Now you no longer have a junkie. You can put drugs in front of them and they won't do it. Because they aren't what they were. They radically changed. They became something else. They became something better. That doesn't happen when you remove. It happens when you replace. It needs to be a decision. And there needs to be a better option. You tell these kids in the city just to get a job, just to better their lives, to better their goals, and they see people that do, and they're just as miserable. Children want to be like their parents, who are stressed, who got ripped off by banks and lost their houses for following the rules they were told. What type of message does that send to your children? Be like me. I'm miserable. Come on. We got to give these children a better option. We have more potential. We have more resources. We have an entire world. And then the universe beyond. You think that we aren't able to allocate resources from space? You know that the sun emits helium-3. Helium-3 burns cold enough in a fusion reactor to produce an unlimited amount of energy, clean. And it's just constantly coming out of the sun, endlessly. At least until the sun ain't here, but by that point, that's not our problem. People want to eliminate fossil fuels and not think about lithium mines and the fact that batteries become, well, toxic waste. I'm not saying that electricity isn't the way, but we need to figure out a different way to harness, a different way to hold. And there are some great minds working on that. There's a lot more things to be concerned with. Oh, the food that makes us sick. You got genetically modified plants that are sprayed down with insecticides that are polluting our whole planet. The nutrition that we gain from these is minimal in comparison to the original plants. Not to mention that these plants can't reproduce, and that might cause some issues because all of our cells are produced by the food that we eat. Preservatives that we have. You preserve a food so it doesn't break down. When you eat food, what do you think your body does to it? Your body breaks it down. So if you design food to not break down, you see, not the best thing for consumption. We use petroleum to produce a lot of things. Plastics, polyester, the list goes on and on. So thinking that you're just going to eliminate vehicles is going to eliminate petroleum, you got another thing coming. Hemp is fully recyclable, harvested every 16 months. You don't have to chop down massive trees. You can use that to make paper. You can use that to make plastic, other fabrics. That should be the way that we're heading. We got to stop this whole monocultural or agricultural, and we got to start diversifying. And then you don't have the necessity for the genetically modified and all of these contaminants, because if one strain gets hit with a blight or some form of pestilence, you would be able to balance it out with the others. It would be a little bit more difficult, but insofar as the population, it would be a lot more sustainable insofar as health. And a lot of people want to dispute about eating organic foods and basically taking the toxins out of our food, that things become more expensive, and that if you remove preservatives, then you have a higher waste amount and all of these things. But imagine how much money right now we spend on Medicare and cancer and all of these other diseases that are created by ingestion. You have three causes for illness. Yeah? You have genetics, which is not nearly as much as they try to make it seem. Our genes survived plagues, survived famine, survived for thousands, if not millions of years. Okay? Our ancestors are survivors, and those genes, that DNA, was passed on to you down many, 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 many lines of survivors, people who were strong, people who endured, people who took over this entire planet. And now you're being told that you are flawed? The DNA that you received from your ancestors? No, it's no good. You don't need any of that. You're just imperfect. It's almost like we weren't made to be the dominant species on the planet, right? How inherent we are with our weakness, our illnesses. No. The vast majority of diseases come from a toxin that shouldn't be in your body, or a nutrient that is missing from your body. So it's either something that shouldn't be there or something that should be there. You see? And then at least you have the medical system coming in to keep you alive long enough to be able to just drain more and more money. Money is all an illusion. We know this, but it's an illusion that works. It's how our society is able to stack. It's how we're able to allocate resources. It's how we're able to move forward. It's a lie that's agreed upon. You know, that's something that separated us from the animals a long time ago. A Neanderthal or a caveman, they say, can tell another Neanderthal there's a lion down by the river. And you can be like, oh, lion, better stay away. But Homo sapien, humans, we can say that the lion is the guardian spirit of our tribe. And it gives us strength and it gives us power. And we can all unite behind it. We can pray to it. We can all agree to it. And now we wear manes into battle, right? The Neanderthal couldn't conceptualize an idea of paper having value. We can, and we do. And it works well. There's many other lies that we tell that we agree on and that work out quite well. Like human rights, for example, is a lie. It's fictitious. Completely made up in our imagination. But as long as it's unified in everyone's imagination, it has the potential for amazing things. Now, I believe in human rights and that they should be respected. We're not savages, after all. But these ideals, we choose. We choose which ones matter, which ones don't. We choose what's real within our own little world. And this is a very powerful thing. And right now we have created a world that is full with a lot of evil. I know that the world is better now than it's ever been in history. And that's what everyone says. I don't care about how far we've come. I care about how much farther we have to go. And I don't want to just complain about the situation that we're in right now. We need to get minds together who can spread this, who can solve the problems. Everyone knows that they exist. Everyone knows that there's some horribly wrong things with this world and that we have the power to fix it. Yeah, we live longer. Yeah, we have more stuff. Most people aren't starving. Some are, though. We can't forget about that. There's war and famine and disease. There's atrocities committed across this planet every single day. But we have the capacity to alter that. And we've never had that before. And what are we going to do with it? Stockpile nuclear missiles that can wipe out the planet 1,000 times over? Yeah. And those same individuals that made those decisions are the same individuals who are still making decisions. It's strange. We who now have a limitless capacity for creation use it for destruction. It's twisted irony. Nothing that I'm saying has any weight unless action is taken. I need a voice so other individuals will engage with me. I don't have a voice unless people listen. I want to solve the world's problems, not just bitch about them. And there are some very competent people who can be utilized in order to get these things done. But it takes a unification of the population. Now, I don't know if I'm the person to unify the population, but I'll be damned if I don't try. We need to have these discussions. People of power and influence need to have them as well. Those who aren't evil, those who aren't so tied up into all of this. So we need people who are mostly self-made. People who are uplifted by speaking truths. People who motivate instead of hate. People who want to create. A beautiful world. That's what we want. That's what I want for my child. That's what I want for his children. I understand that in my lifetime, I've already seen some of the darker sides of the world, but his children might not need to. Right? Isn't that what we want? But instead, we waste all of our time going to jobs that we don't like, come back and watch movies or TV shows that are alright. You know? Most people are just on autopilot, concerned about paying their bills or getting this shit and that shit. The whole world's passing us by. You know that history has been made by very few people while everybody else was farming. Yo, shout out to what Yuval Noah Harari, because I've talked about some of the things that he's highlighted in his book Sapiens. Smart dude. Check it out if you want. We have more in common with each other than those that want us to fight. We need to unify. We have the capacity. We have the potential. What we lack is the organization. So we got to start planning. We got to start coming up with better alternatives than the world we despise. And it starts by breaking down the system's intricacies, figuring out how everything ties together, figuring out how everything is built and it loops. It's a very complex, very beautiful system that we have established. And we need to figure out the linchpins that need to be altered, slowly turn. If you just do a radical smash, a lot of people are going to starve. A lot of people are going to die. Things are not going to get better, and there's going to be a power vacuum. And that power vacuum is probably going to be seized by individuals who have no better inclination, or at worst, even more malicious than the individuals who are currently at hand, which I find a little bit difficult to imagine. I guess the Chinese could swoop in and get us. That would be, you know. We gotta create. We gotta think. We gotta figure out alternatives. Because the direction that we're heading isn't where we want to go. And everybody feels powerless on a singular level. But there are brilliant minds all across this nation, all across this planet. Individuals who are given gifts in all different spectrums. Your gift might even be just a great parent or a great friend, a brother, sister, the individual. Spread love. Take care of yourself. Don't tear people down. Don't be rude. Build up. Always build up. You don't know what you could inspire in someone else. You know how many interactions you have throughout your lifetime? Do you know the weight that your words can carry to a total stranger? They're having a bad day. A few kind words can lift them up. They're having a good day. A few bad words can tear them down. We're not powerless, unless we choose to be. You surrender your power when you blame society for where you are, when you blame your parents for where you are. You surrender your power to them, to those entities, to whatever it is that you are blaming, to whatever it is that makes it so you cannot succeed at what you desire. So, we as population, we need to get our acts together. We need to start unifying and organizing, not necessarily in the physical sense, but mentally. We need to start solving these problems, not just bitching about them. That's what we all want to do, because it feels good. But really, what's the point of feeling good if it doesn't have any end result? What's the point of lashing out in anger when it just complexes your problems? Where do we want to go? How will we get there? And what are the appropriate steps to take? What needs to be sacrificed in order to complete our objective? Because if you're not willing to sacrifice in order to complete it, you might as well never even start. What needs to be sacrificed? What needs to be replaced? What needs to be altered? What needs to be shifted? Who are the people to do this? How do we think tank it? It's going to take some energy. It's going to take some effort. It's going to take a lot of thought. And it's going to take a lot of wisdom. There are a lot of people who are striving in one direction or another, and they are doing amazing work, beautiful work, all across this planet. People with big hearts, people full of love, people who want to make a change and who actively are. But they're handcuffed. They have limitations without the backing of everyone else. But these individuals can be used as leaders, as teachers, as influencers on a mass scale. People like Jordan Peterson, who wants to open up people's minds and wants people to better themselves. He's a brilliant person who understands a lot about human nature and how to tap into the self, how to build up. People like Grant Cardone, great dude, spends millions of dollars trying to help out individuals. He understands pain and suffering and loss, losing his father, as well as like drug addiction. The dude is a self-made multimillionaire. I think he's worth over $1 billion. Count all of his real estate and everything involved with that. Amazing dude, kind heart, works his ass off. Patrick Bet-David, the Valuetainment channel. I love that dude. He's the man. Immigrant, comes here, young age, works his ass off, gets his stuff together, serves in the military, sacrifices for our nation, the nation that he loves, and now he's the prophet of capitalism. Come on, helping entrepreneurs build them up. Amazing dude. I love what he's done. I love what he's doing. You got Joe Rogan, all these other individuals on the intellectual dark web. You got him. He's preaching to a whole nation of people who would never have considered a lot of the things that he's bringing in, and he does it all through his own natural curiosity. He is a natural. Plus, he's a badass. Dude's great. We all know him from Fear Factor and all this other stuff. He's one of those people that can be trusted, at least in the eyes of many people. He's genuine. And that's a difficult thing to find. Tim Pool. Tim Pool is good. He's like that classic, iconic punk skater. He's a little badger. He goes for the truth, man. And he just all the time, dude. Dedication. Every day he was doing that. Hours and hours of investigating. Just going. He put himself out in the lines, out in Egypt, out in mad props. Elon Musk, he's done more impossible things than anyone in our generation. Tip of the hat there. He's definitely somebody who needs to be involved in figuring out technologically how we're going to advance, as well as the space and resource. You know, that was a terrible way to express that. But resource allocation interstellarly. I don't know if it would be interstellar. I guess maybe. See, but that's why we need people like Elon Musk building tunnels to Tokyo and shit. There is an unlimited fountain. And imagine what another generation can bring when taught how to tap into their potential. We don't need to teach kids or tell kids what to think. We need to teach them how. And we got to stop stunting them. We got to stop putting them in educational systems that are designed to zap their creativity. And how many more Elon Musks will we have? You know? Create a society, a culture that feeds curiosity, that feeds the advancement of oneself and the contribution to society that we all desire. That is what's needed. And I would love to talk with any of these individuals about furthering their agenda for bettering the world and implementing anyone else and anything else that will further our society, that will further our population, that will provide better worlds for our children and their children, that will help save the planet environmentally. Instead of this bullshit that they prop up, trying to save the world environmentally by making all of your friends rich and by throwing in a bunch of other schemes that are just as bad for the environment as the existing ones. That's just gaslighting at the highest regard. And then you got people crying about it, thinking that they're the God's gift to humanity because they're not using plastic bags. Instead, they use paper. You cut down a tree that's been growing for 40 years. It's great. Wonderful. Tap on the back. Instead of promoting hemp, which you can harvest every 16 months or 16 weeks. You know, fuckers. I gotta stop swearing. It's hard. That's probably the most difficult thing about this. That's part of the reason that I'm talking slow, too. If I could swear openly and say exactly what I want to say, then I'd be able to just... But I can't. So, here we are and here we sit. I will try and self-regulate as much as possible. Notice that I didn't say a lot of names of people who seem to think that they are saving the world. They have a different idea of what is good for the planet and humanity. And it doesn't include what's best for us. So, for all of those individuals and their philanthropic pursuits that enrich themselves and their friends, come on. You guys know who you are and what you're doing. And it is vile. Either way, we all need to love. Spread love in the world. We need to understand that we're all brothers and sisters. We're all in this together. The individuals who are trying to separate themselves from the rest of us, they're trying to rise above. They're trying to make us less in order to build themselves up. They would rather walk on our backs to climb the mountain than to all help each other. So we need to build a better world by being better people and continually striving to attain the ideal for not only ourselves, but for everyone that we come into contact with. Stop tearing down. So right now we're crabs in a bucket. Somebody gets close and just fucking yank them down. I love you guys. We have more in common with each other than those that want us to fight.